Let's have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Nisita?
Here.
Commissioner West? Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Crawford?
Here.
Commissioner Peterson?
Here.
Commissioner Shaw? Commissioner Norris?
Here.
Commissioner Walters? Present. And Chair Slack?
Here. Okay, citizens' comments. No, we have.
There's two of us involved in this. If you'd give us the difference of 4 minutes instead of 3, we will be done.
3.5?
3.5.
Oh, 4.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Margie Hughes. I'm a citizen. I live in Oregon City on Marysville Lane. We're here tonight representing an organization called River Cities Forum, and I'd like to just kind of share a little bit about what our organization is all about. We are a number of citizens from Oregon City, West Lynn, and Gladstone, and some from unincorporated Clackamas County that live adjacent to those cities. And we come together to discuss kind of what's going on in our communities. We look at the issues. We have people looking at urban reserves. We're interested in the water quality, the sewer systems, really just the quality of life in our communities. And we try to do as much as we can to get information out to our members and then to community members who are interested. So, and Jerry's passing out some information. We did our first event that was for the communities, and that was a river tour, and I think Jerry's going to talk a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, we had invited in particular your new administrator because we thought he might want to know more about the river and its environment and the standards of operating tourism activity here in the Upper Willamette near the falls. And so you have before you a little scenery taken by a professional photographer that happened to be your chairman. I really was pleased with his photography work. A little simulation of what was once thought to be a round trip cruise, and it did turn out to be that, but could have been a one-way cruise. And that was just a 2 months ago on a Saturday. 85 people were on board, 45 paying passengers, and 23 other people that we were trying to kind of recognize, including Dave Hyde, who spoke extensively about river commerce and things of that nature. Sandy Carter speaking about the loss of it that many of you have been involved in, Resident Quincy herself, and Chris Missions. And we were the commission candidates and commissioners, Bob Austin spoke as well. But this little summary photo thing I thought would kind of show you the picture of what happened. It actually turned out very well. Captain Simonis was very professional. Some are saying that's because Commissioner Nisita and I have been together on these cruises that they're either crashing or that they're going to ground. But we think it's just fate accompli. So we have a special presentation to your new administrator because he probably doesn't understand totally about what happens in this area. And so there are many people that came together on that cruise that we hope to meet him. But a group in particular that can't speak in particular wanted to let them know that they exist at the falls. So you are being presented with a special plaque of a California sea lion. I'm sorry, it's not an Oregon sea lion, saying welcome to Willamette Falls. The next evolution
is not being expressed to the sea.
The next evolution of this vessel's operation will be on May 15th at 11 a.m. Anyone wanting to be on board, I talked to Captain Simonis today, be at the dock, your dock, in front of Rivershore Hotel at 11 a.m. It costs $10 to go through the locks. Then it will discharge you, because you've gone all the way through the locks safely, at Burnett's Landing above the falls. And those that want to return downriver, be at Burnett's Landing at 2 o'clock, or simply stay on board for a total of $20. So it's really quite a good deal.
To take the bus back?
There'll be a shuttle bus that brings you back. Shuttle bus will bring you back. So perhaps Administrator Frazier might have a chance to do that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Future agenda items. Commissioner Crocker.
Yeah, I don't know if we have any expectations for talking about what was formerly known as the rivers, or the property that was formerly known as the rivers, and if there's any plans, or do we know what the property owner is thinking, or can we be involved or should we be involved? And if appropriate, I know Commissioner Nacita has talked about a waste to energy potential. I don't know if he's done enough research where he could present some findings on whether that's a feasible option or not, or if he has experts who could present whether that would be a feasible option or not.
I have the results of preliminary research that I could share. Sure.
Okay, I think one thing that I think we talked about in an earlier meeting, if we're going to add something to the agenda that involves staff time, then we're just going to kind of do a vote among ourselves to see whether we all agree, or a majority of us at least agree to put that on the agenda. So how does everybody feel about that particular item being added to a future agenda?
I'll take my green off by just commenting. I think we expressed the desire to have a representative of the Parker Estate to actually speak to us about the plans. I think we need to hear from the property owner what the property owner is interested in doing. I don't think we're in a position to drive any of that, but I think through some kind of discussion, we could find to what extent perhaps the Urban Renewal agency could become involved, but without hearing from the representative from the Parker Estate, I think it'd be premature to suggest what else can go with that. We need to hear from the property owner.
Mr. Frazier, does this is this something that we can do in the future, or I guess as a group we're saying we'd like to do in the future?
I have some information about those projects that I was going to share in my report.
So shall we wait till then and see what's shared and then make some decision at that point? One other future agenda item that is a continuance of previous item, and that is our subcommittee on the guidelines for the downtown. I was really hoping that we could have some closure on that soon, so that as we move into the next fiscal year, we could, in fact, be giving potential applicants an opportunity to understand what our new procedures might be. So,
we actually had a subcommittee meeting late this afternoon.
Okay.
And we'll be coming forward with the draft of the next urban renewal.
Okay.
Meeting, the first one.
Great. Anything else? Okay, adoption agenda. Do we have any? If we don't have any comments on that, we'll just move on. General business, item 5A, update on the Northwest Defense Center. Mr. Crentwell.
Thank you. This is a result of the last Urban Renewal Commission meeting. There was a request for staff to work with the Environmental Defense Center on some of the concerns that they addressed towards the Cove project in a letter they sent to you. I believe it was March 3rd. Representatives from PPS actually wrote a letter to them requesting a meeting, and that letter's attached in your packet. And we haven't heard anything back. I've left a message with them today, and what we're hoping to do is, again, I just want to bring you up to speed. We're still planning on meeting with that group and trying to address some of their concerns. And the only other thing I wanted to mention is also attached to your packet is some correspondence between PPS, the city, and the Corps of Engineers regarding the high water mark. And right now, I also left a message with EPA. There's some concern from EPA that the Corps' determination of the high water mark may have some issues with it. So as soon as we have those two agencies resolve their issues, we can report back on that.
Okay. Anything else on or any comments? We have no speakers. Okay, moving along to item 5B, which is the Cove DDA extension.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Brent Law again.
Thank you, Chair Slide. This is an issue that we briefly discussed at the last meeting. It's I think the big issue here is the construction and management contract. It's a complicated contract. It's a GCCM contract, which means there's a lot of requirements for reporting and for auditing on the city's part, which is good. The reason we wrote that type of contract was so that we would have some control over the money that gets spent for completing the site work for phase 1 and phase 2. We had our attorney Steve Janet look at the contract that was proposed by PPS, and he had several suggested changes, so we're nearing the end of looking at those changes. The other outstanding issue is the public investment budget, and those are the specific line items for quantity and unit prices for this work. And of course, this work is work that we're paying for. It's the $7 million that was part of the $10 million line of credit that the agency is using to help fund this project. So that public investment budget is still in progress. We've had a lot of details in terms of the engineering drawings, anything to do with landscaping, water lines, sewer lines, those type of things. And there have been a number of red lines exchanged between PPS and the city, and we're trying to hone down those little details at this point. We're getting close, but we're not ready to have that budget before you. So we're asking that those items, again, I'll reference the item numbers in the DDA. They're items 5.2.8, 5.2.18, and those two items, we're asking that those be extended from May 15th, 2010 to June 15th, 2010. And what we plan on doing is bringing those two items back to you in the first meeting in June. So this would require formal action.
I'm sorry.
This would require formal action by the board.
Do we have a motion, or do we have any comments? You're not showing up on the screen here.
I always have been told that on the floor, request is.
Oh, okay. I got it. Okay, sorry. Mr.
I'd like to bring up a point that's kind of related to the previous agenda item regarding the concerns regarding the riparian trees on Clackamas Cove. And maybe Mr. Gretlaw or Mr. Weisman, but I think probably most of Mr. Gretlaw can inform us on this. Over this past several months, we've made numerous changes and extensions to the DDA to accommodate deadlines. And I'm not really sure given all of these extensions, of the sequencing of this project anymore. And here's the concern I want to raise and propose that we address it and have staff consider this, and the attorneys and the developers consider this for the June meeting. I'm not sure anymore. My recollection of the DDA was that the apartment complex was supposed to be financed and coming out of the ground before the grading of the east bank of the cove was to take place. And that extension for the financing has been extended several months into the future. So I'm not sure right now whether the grading and the tree removal right now is contingent upon that financing. I don't think it is, but I think it was the sense of the DDA to wait for the financing of the apartments before this tree removal and tree cutting and grading took place, so that if for some reason the financing didn't happen, the trees did not have a death sentence, as it were, because there is concern in the community about the tree removal, and that the compromise was that the majority of this board considered that to be an acceptable sacrifice for the development and the economic development benefits this community is to receive because of this development, and the majority of the board felt that this was an acceptable compromise in that regard. My concern is now is that even though that the financing is not going to may not take place till the end of the year or whenever. And perhaps, given the economy, we may be granting another extension in January or whenever. That under the terms of the DDA now, the grading is not contingent upon that financing of the apartments, because I don't want to see this tree removal happen if we are not sure that we're going to get the economic development that the DDA was designed to foster. And if that's the case, I'd like to see that amended so that no tree cutting takes place if no financing occurs. Mr. Darrell.
Yeah, Darrell with the developer. We did actually modify the DDA to where the construction and the financing has to be in place before we can move any dirt. Tree removal, because we had an approval from the city, we were going to go ahead and do the trees, not move the dirt. We felt like we had that right, but that was modified since then, and we agreed that we would not start the removal of the trees until after the nesting season. So the July 15th date is the date that we're supposed to actually break ground and have the construction in place, the construction loan. Those are still mandatory on this July 15th. So you do have that as a lock-in.
Okay, but it seems to me that it's not that much of a lock-in. It seems to me that as of July 15th, the tree removal could take place, even though the financing is not there until November or next March.
We agreed that we wouldn't do the tree removal until after the nesting season, so that would be a potential. So if for some reason we don't hit our scheduled date, which we believe we will, the financing company is moving forward. Everything is moving along very well. Appraisal is in the process. The expectation is that will be available. Everything has been submitted on the apartments to the city for review. So we've got all of our ducks in order. I think that we will make that date. And the reason for this additional extension is when we submitted the plans, the city made a lot of changes. Those red lines came back to us, I think, 2-3 weeks ago. The engineers finished making all of those red lines and then resubmitting them. And they just went out to bid about 3 days ago. So we haven't had the ability to actually go through and finalize all the numbers as Dan was saying. So that's kind of sitting there. And then also the modifications that was requested by Janik's office on the CMGC are very significant and go considerably beyond the scope of what was required in the DDA. So I've had our attorney, which is for the Clackamas Cove LLC, review it. I've requested, and they're doing it. The actual contractor is reviewing it and going through it. So there will still be some negotiations required because of the extensive modification that Janik's office has requested. But I think that we have time to get those done.
Okay, but I don't think that answers the issue and the concern I have about what happens if, for some reason, financing is not in place by July 15th.
There's two options you have. One, you say you don't want to move forward with this. The other is you give us an extension if there is a legitimate reason. So we're either out of the deal or you give us an extension.
To get financing?
Yes.
Okay, but we've already, I thought, given an extension for the financing until...
That's July 15th.
I thought it was January 15th.
No.
My recollection is January. Okay.
It's July.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Neely?
I think I share a little bit of his concern. The notion is, what about something happens, you remove the trees, and then you end up, for whatever reason, don't do the tree removal and you don't expand that riparian area. And I feel this will go for it, but I just wanted to echo, I think, what you were implying. I had a couple of other things that I wanted to mention. At the end of the last public, at our last Urban Renewal Agency meeting, Chair Slack really emphasized the need in terms of the public information that's going to be going out there, I presume this summer, about what's happening there. And he expressed the feeling, which I agree with, that it really has to be a major education piece. It's not a case of just putting some signage up there, but to have mechanisms to really have the people that are currently using the facility that's out there understand what's going to be happening. And so I just wanted to echo what you said at the last meeting. I think it's really important. The other thing I was going to ask, I was at the CIC meeting on Monday, and Mr. Grenlaw was presenting the discussion about the parking lot, the agreement being worked out with Tri-City and so forth, and a lot of it was designated for public parking, which is good. I couldn't remember, and I failed to check the maps before I came, and I apologize. Right now, there's an area near the trailhead on Main Street where people can park. And I couldn't remember if your plan is including maintaining parking right off of the Main Street extension there at the trailhead, so people could get out there and actually go ahead and use that trailhead. Is there parking there? Or do you?
There's nothing designed on the apartment sides that we're suggesting where the currently has that spot. No, there is none there.
I have some concern because some people, even when we got public property directly, we'll have it with the Tri-City agreement and everything, have public property where people can access it. That's good for people that want to use that Esplanade right in front of the office area that you ultimately will build. Some people are going to simply want to go from one point on the trailhead to another point on the trailhead and would like to start at the beginning.
The parking at this location and here, those are the two primary spots.
Yeah, and if people want to actually start their trail, wherever the parking occurs, whether it occurs closer to it's not parking that's on the map, but whether it occurs closer to the to where the Oregon City Shopping Center occurs, but for people that are going to want to really start their journey at the trailhead, they're not going to want to walk back to the trailhead and so forth. Some people are using it as basically a walk-through. Yeah, somewhere in there, somewhere close to the trailhead, if there's the opportunity to actually have parking in there.
The only spot that we really would have would be right here. And piece, part of that is designated for a entry monumenting and a water feature.
Well, that's fine. I think that would be a fine area for it, but a lot of people are going to want to use that trail and put them right in the middle of it, you know. I think
there's enough room to do, I think, even a double load here.
Something I'd like you to consider.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioner DeCita?
I have a question for the group and for staff on the letter from Mr. Darrow that is in our packet and dated April 29th. And the reason it struck me is because I've raised before concerns about who makes policy and who is policy being made before the whole board, as opposed to this board just kind of approving what policy staff formulates. And I'm going to point the group to paragraph 2, and I'll read this. This timing for securing the 99-year lease and the joint use agreement for the public-private parking lot has also been extended until July 15, 2010. Meetings including city staff, URA staff, and Tri-City staff have been held, and the critical issues have been identified. And this is the sentence that's concerned me. The URA is prepared to leverage these negotiations, including having the mayor meet with the chair of the Board of County Commissioners if necessary. City staff will need to focus on this issue and make sure that Tri-City is moving forward. The response time has been extended. This board, to my recollection, has never deliberated over this proposal that the URA, which I assume is this commission, being prepared to leverage these negotiations, including having the mayor meet with the chair of the Board of the County Commissioners if necessary. take a bit of umbrage to that because it's not something that we just deliberated or voted on. And here it is in a letter from the developers acting as if it's stated URA policy. And I'd just like to get some clarification on that.
From my standpoint, in working with the city, maybe it might not have been exactly URA. I remember working with the staff. I remember working with Larry very extensively, and the fact that it was taking an extraordinary amount of time. The requirement is that the city actually move forward with the Tri-Cities to perfect that lease. So it really is in that court. And I think that my base reason for putting that in at that level was to say we probably need some help. And as we our expectation, since it's a joint concept and it's going to be a joint use, that whatever it takes to leverage that in or to accelerate it or to move it on and expedite it would be part of something that the URA would want to do because it's part of the overall project.
Okay. I would like to get Mr. Dretlaw's perspective on that since it is in effect addressed to you.
It is required in the DDA, the 99-year lease, and it also specifies that it be used for public parking. So this is merely a way to perfect that. I guess I would agree with what Ed said.
I'm on that. I don't know if Mr. Commissioner Lucia wants to go ahead and respond to that.
No,
Sometimes the negotiations between the county and the site is somewhat tricky, and I think it comes at one point, frankly, where the major elected representative probably is the best person to have discussions, especially if it goes to the county commission level. I personally don't have any difficulty, but I think if other people do on the agency, then maybe we need to have that discussion.
Commissioner Norris.
As the object of the sentence, negotiations and paving the political way is what mayors do. That's why you really elect us. And so if there's it's happened for all the years I've been here. When negotiations stumble, you send in the mayor to try to do, work with other elected officials. Staff do a great job working together, but now and then you need to put on political pressure. So, no, I'm always ready to do that when required.
Okay, do all of us? What's the sense of the issue here? I mean, are we wanting to move forward the way the letter is written, or do we want to change what we're doing? I mean, who does not want to move forward the way the letter is written? Mr. Nacita, I guess.
My concern is, as I've stated, that these types of proposals and decision making occur at the board level, and not occur such that the board is on the tail end of the decision making process and fait accompli.
I'm sorry, Commissioner West.
Well, we had started this DD quite a while ago, and I feel that as an Urban Renewal Commission, we sat through at great length presentations from Mr. Janik explaining in depth of this DDA, and so now I feel good as a commission, and all of us partook in that. And at this level now, the details I think need to be left to staff. And some of it, or as in this case, where there was a little confusion or greater clarification or a different point of view, you call in the mayor. Another point for the mayor on this one is she serves on the Tri-City Sewers Board, I believe, and we also, with the new city manager, need continuity in this agreement. The institutional knowledge we need to carry forward.
Commissioner Norris?
No, I'm not showing there.
You're showing on this.
Sorry, I'm on now.
Okay. Can we move forward? We need a motion. And that would be to approve the extension on the DDA of, I guess it's item 5.2.8 and 5.218. Okay, we have a second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Vote.
Commissioner Neely,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
No.
Commissioner Nocita,
Aye.
Commissioner Crawford,
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson,
Aye.
Commissioner Norris,
Aye.
Commissioner Walters,
Aye.
Chair Slack.
Aye. That would be 8 for and 1 against. The motion passes. Are we down to storefront grants? Item 5C, Urban Renewal Storefront Grant Request, 1210 Center Street. Special?
Yes, is Mr. Kelly here? I would like to invite Mr. Kelly up to the microphone so that he can answer questions for you. This is a project that the grant is being, a $10,000 grant is being requested to improve the building at 1210 Center Street. There are good pictures in the file. This party worked on the ice house and did what I thought was a very good job of turning that building into something that was a amenity for the community. And in this case, there will be repainting, redoing windows, changing out doors. So for that reason, for those kinds of things, you will need to go through a minor site plan review through planning. And other than that, we didn't have any other conditions other than doing that, getting a sign permit for any new signage, and then work with the building division on building permits. So, but I think that Mr. Kelly may want to elaborate a little bit. And
I think she did a fine job. We're going to.
Would you identify yourself?
Yes, Sam Kelly, owner of 1210 Center Street and 1200 Main Street. We did the project on the Hoagie's Pub, which is now the Ice House, and now we're going to try to go across the railroad track and clean that one up. So we're wanting to redo the siding completely on the front sides, not the back, just repaint the back. 2 storefronts, just make it a little nicer looking building.
Will it remain auto? Is it auto repair now?
It is auto repair now, yes.
Is that the intention that it would remain?
Yeah, remain that, but try to dress it up.
Okay. Do we have any questions? What's that? Doug, Commissioner Lee.
I would just want to say you did a great job when the ice house came into being. It is a real asset to the neighborhood. Some of us had problems with the number of bars we have in our downtown area, but boy, if they all look like that, that'd be great. And actually, in the great U of O and Oregon State game, I was down there watching it there. It's really, really nice. I just want to say I appreciate the tremendous job you did.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to have it all done.
I suspect that it's a situation where you spent a few dollars more than what we gave you.
A few. Yeah, yeah, I'll be a few years.
Commissioner Smith.
I want to exactly say the same thing. I drive past it every day, and it's changed that part of downtown. Really is an improvement. On the grant that we're looking at tonight, however, I just want you to know that I'm voting against the grants tonight, not because of the merit of the grant itself, but because we still don't have storefront guidelines in place, and I have been concerned about awarding money without having any guidelines. So,
any other Commissioner? You don't show up here, but Commissioner West. It might be operator malfunction on my part.
I too want to commend you on your work in the Ice House. I really like it.
Thank you.
However, on this particular project, I am we have $100,000 a year for storefront grants, and if we had $300,000 a year, I would be really happy to fund this. But I feel that this property is not really on such a frontage. I know I know where it is. I live on 9th and Center.
Okay.
But, I don't feel that this would be in my book, it wouldn't be in the first round of funding. If I had 2 or 3 more rounds of funding, I would love to fund your project. So, I just think with our limited budget that this would not be, just not as much presence as some of the other properties and being, maybe I'll just stop at that. So I'm gonna vote no tonight.
Sure. Commissioner Neely?
Yeah, just a comment. I believe that we're still within the $100,000 budget that we've assigned for this particular budget year. I mean, I agree with Commissioner Smith's concern. In fact, I was one of the people who supported the moratorium essentially on the granting of these. Guidelines haven't come forward. I understood that you, Commissioner Smith, you'd be working with staff to put them forward, and I don't want to hold things up until they come forward, and I suspect that something is going to be happening.
Were brought forward at the last meeting, and then and it wasn't voted on, so we now are reworking it.
Well, I think there are a couple of issues that I would have had with it, but I think this is not the time to talk. And I do intend to support it. I think it's actually I think it's kind of nice that some of these storefront grants are going to other places besides Main Street, because the area in question is within the Urban Renewal Agency, and I don't recall any monies being awarded in that area. Maybe there have been in the past, but I think it's great that happens. The taxes that are on the increment piece are actually part of that area you're in. So,
any other comments? You know, I have some of the same concerns that Commissioner West does because of where it sits, but I will support it. I drove by and I tried to take a real close look and try to analyze, well, is this really going to improve whatever looks downtown? But, you know, it does have some pretty decent visibility from Main Street through the bottom of the railroad track. So, you know, I was kind of, you know, if we get to the new system we're talking about, where we do have to rank because we have more requests than what we have money for, I would probably have been interested in ranking it down just because of where it sits. But I think it is going to be an asset to Main Street.
It is one of the first buildings you see when you park in the public parking. You expect Smurfs to come live in.
Ms. Brushauer?
Well, to add to that a little bit, that is in the district, and that in terms of the long-term vision for the urban renewal district, that's an area that could really stand some improvements. And this could be the kind of thing that could trigger other property investments. And with the train trestle going through there, I think a little fixing up in that area could go a long way in terms of the goals of urban renewal. And I just wanted to let Commissioner Smith know that we heard you loud and clear. Of course, you know that. And any grants will not come to you in the next budget cycle until you have your approved design standards or your selection standards, criteria, whatever you decide to call it. So just wanted to let you know that I think we had discussed bringing these last few forward so that we could get the last few done from this fiscal year.
The other thing about what you said that is really happens downtown is once somebody in an area starts doing something to fix it up, it kind of is infectious and it spreads. And I know that our downtown manager has been trying to work with the railroad to kind of clean up some of the mess under the railroad, which has been a mess. So hopefully we'll begin to see some improvement in that area down there. Any other comments? Do we have a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Can we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Neely?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
No.
Commissioner Smith?
No.
Commissioner Nocita?
No.
Commissioner Crocker?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson? Commissioner Norris?
Aye.
Commissioner Walters?
Yes.
Chair Slack?
Yes. So that would be 6 in favor and 3 against. The motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
We look forward to seeing the improvements down there. So.
All right. Thank you.
Moving along to item 5D, which is Urban Renewal Storefront Grant Request for 507 and 511 Main Street.
Yes, is Mr. George Diamond here? I don't
It's out in the back. It's outside.
Okay. Great. I'll just introduce this. I would guess that most of you are aware of this building location downtown in the 500 block of Main Street. This is for a painting, exterior painting proposal, and it's a relatively small amount, $2,405 for about a $5,000 paint job for this building, and it's fairly straightforward. And Mr. Diamond, would you like to elaborate at all on your project?
Please introduce yourself and the city you live in, please.
My name's George Diamond.
And the city you live in.
I live in Lake Oswego.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're looking to paint the 507 Main Street building. We call it the Harding building. So what we like to do is we're looking at a couple things. But right now we got the bid on the paint, and we want to do a 3-tone paint job, and there'll be these pictures don't come out real well, but they'll be more in the tan base, and then we'll take this middle strip and we'll highlight a little darker brown, and then we'll have like probably 2 or 3 tones. We're going to do some paint samples and see what looks the best. But we're also going to look at maybe putting some smooth texture on the lower part so it gets rid of that rock look, which is really 50 looking. Try to make it a little more historic looking. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. We paint the whole building. It's not just front.
Commissioner Neal.
Well, probably it was some time ago, several commissions ago, where we had one come to us that was a painting job, and I voted for it, and then I couldn't see any difference in the way the building looked. I mean, it was a fresh coat of paint, but I was very disappointed. It was one of our more historic buildings. However, I made a vow to myself I wouldn't support anything that was just a paint job. However, in fact, it's going to look different, and so I'm going to probably support this stuff.
Commissioner Nacita?
I appreciate the application, the effort, Mr. Diamond, but as one urban renewal commissioner, just as a subjective issue, I think an application that is solely one for paint is beyond where I can comfortably go in awarding storefront grants, and I don't think I can support this application.
Anybody else? I really feel that end of Main Street has some similar issues to the railroad issue that we just looked at. It needs some help down there. I'm hoping that the circulation study is going to change some circulation down there. It's going to improve the potential for retail, which will provide some boost to the health of that area, I think, if that comes about. And so, for that reason, I definitely will support, you being the first to do something down there. And if you talk to your neighbors, we've got, I walk Main Street at least once a week and just kind of dream. And we've got some things down there that could really be major improvements to the look of our Main Street. And so I'm hoping that I would vote for this and hoping that you will begin to see some of the same kind of things happening. Anything else? Do we have a motion?
I will make a motion. I will move approval of the Urban Renewal Storefront Grant requests for 507, 509, and 511 Main Street.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, second discussion. We have a vote, please.
Commissioner Neely?
Aye.
Commissioner West? Aye. Commissioner Smith? Commissioner Nacita?
No.
Commissioner Crocker?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Norris?
Aye.
Commissioner Walters?
No.
And Chair Slack?
Yes, so that would be 6 in favor, 3 opposed, and the motion carries. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, could I make a comment?
Mr. Neely.
One of the things in terms of kind of that draft guidelines I saw that I thought was going to be there's some discussion, for one thing, of actually increasing the potential grant, and I may have missed it. What I wanted to happen is an increase above the 10,000 would be tied to a restoration effort as opposed to a remodeling effort. And I don't know that, I might have missed it, but I didn't see it there. And,
It'll be in the next draft.
okay, it'll be in the next draft, because I think this is rather critical. I don't have a problem with $10,000 for renovation, but I think we really got to give emphasis, especially on some really important buildings. None of these, with the exception of one that's on the National Register of Historic Places, none of these buildings have come through our local designation process, and I think it's a mechanism of encouraging them to do so, but also to give them the financial support necessary to do some restoration work. And I think some critical buildings that I would approve a grant on if in fact it was a renovation. And so I think it's something that is really important for myself.
Okay, Mr. Fraser.
One thing that I'm hoping eventually will occur here is that we will have enough additional monies in the budget that we talked about last week, where the committee might even be able to consider different tiers of these grant amounts, even those affecting structural changes there that can be extremely expensive in some of those cases. And eventually, if we're able to gather those kind of resources from the district, we'll be able to maybe offer that in different tiers, so that you can have structural in one case, or just facade in other cases, and break those down into categories as the committee that's working on this thinks about those guidelines. Maybe you start with one place, and depending on the available funding, we end up somewhere else where they can have a greater impact, perhaps.
And Main Street Orange City, by the way, is additionally looking for other sources of revenue that will support your, it will support the urban renewal budget and support the kind of activity and investment that you're talking about.
And I have spoken to Mr. Purdy about some of those other avenues, and I know he's pursuing them, so I'm grateful for the work of Main Street.
Consent agenda, we have a motion for,
I want to pull the April 13th meeting minutes out.
Okay, do we need a vote on that?
We have to just sit there and
okay, we'll just separate them. So we'll do a consent agenda on item 6A.
I move adoption.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have discussion? We don't have discussion. Consent. Just the vote, please.
Commissioner Neely?
Aye.
Commissioner West? Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Just to clarify, in voting this, we're not consenting on April 13th because I pulled it.
Correct.
Okay.
We're doing separate.
Aye.
Commissioner Crawford?
Abstain.
And Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Norris?
Aye.
Commissioner Walters?
Yes.
Chair Slack?
Yes. So that would be 8-1, 1 abstention, 8 in favor. The motion passes. Okay, let's then take a look at the minutes of April 13th. And we want to go ahead and talk about those.
Sure.
You're not showing on my screen, so you're illegal.
Okay. I didn't call this out to make a correction because I think the minutes do accurately reflect the minutes of that day, but I did want to point something out as it related to the first agenda item on our agenda tonight. In the future agenda items, number 3, the minutes accurately reflect Commissioner Nocita also wanted to invite Northwest Environmental Defense Center to a future meeting, and the commission wanted staff to respond to the letter from them first. I wanted to express my concern, and I have with staff today, about the way the wording of the commission report came back to us regarding that agenda item. I kind of felt that the commission report was kind of casting aspersions on NEDC for not responding, and the commission report did seem to indicate that NEDC was not responding, when in fact it was only PPS and not staff that had responded to the letter from NEDC.
Where are you in the minutes? I don't.
3 future agenda items, paragraph 3. I said that.
Yeah, no, I know, but what are the words you're?
And the commission wanted staff to respond to the letter from them first. I'm just pointing out to the commission that we directed staff at the April 13th meeting to respond to the letter from NEDC. And only PPS responded to the letter from NEDC, not staff. And I'm concerned about the way NEDC is being characterized as having been uncooperative and not responding.
It doesn't say that here.
Well, it implied that in the commission report for the agenda item, first agenda item in our minutes tonight, or in the staff report for our first agenda item tonight. And I just wanted to, express my concern that I'm glad that it is being undertaken now that we are contacting NEDC about responding to their letter, but I don't think that that the fact that PPS has responded to NEDC satisfies the directive of this commission that staff respond to NEDC. I don't think that our interests and the developers' interests are necessarily 100% aligned.
Okay, can we just pass that comment on to Mr. Frazier, who's now taken over since this was all done, and
yeah, I know.
Let him move forward with staff in the future. I mean, you've got a mayor who wants me to be done at 6 o'clock, or I'm going to die.
She
next to me, so.
She can't go you without a motion.
And so there are a number of issues, and I'm glad that this issue of the ordinary high water line in the cove, that it has been proposed at 16 feet, whereas the mouth of the Clackamas River, the ordinary high water line, is recorded at 26 feet, which is a 27, just a 11-foot difference. So there are issues, and I'm sure that it is in the developers' interest to promote the ordinary high water line at 16 feet, and they're perfectly free to advance what they see as their best interest, and I don't begrudge them that. I think, given the concerns that have been expressed by citizens in this community, I don't think it's in this board's interest necessarily to toe that line, as it were. I think we have to make an independent determination, and if NEDC has raised issues such as the ordinary high water line, I think we have to make an independent inquiry determination on questions like that, and not kind of cast aspersions to citizens and environmental groups who are raising these issues, because I think they're important issues.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the minutes?
I'll move for approval.
A second.
Second.
Do we have any discussion on the minutes? Vote, please.
Commissioner Neely?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Commissioner Crawford?
Abstain.
Commissioner Peterson?
Abstain.
Commissioner Norris?
Aye.
Commissioner Walters?
Aye.
And Chair Flack?
Aye. That looks like 7, 4, and 2 abstentions, the motion passes. And we'll move on to the city manager's report. You have 5 minutes, I think, or something. But I didn't say that. She did.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Mayor. Well, I wanted to report to the commission that I've had an opportunity to meet with the 3 parties on the, and I don't know what to call it, but so I'm going to call it the Rossman site, formerly referred to as the Rivers. And as you know, the property owner is not one of the 2 potential developers there. So these developers are a gentleman named Chuck Sides is the more recent of the 2, and the former developer I think you're familiar with is with CenterCal. And these are, it seems to me like there's a lot less known information about what's going on with these negotiations among these parties than there is known information. And being from the show me state, I have not seen them show me anything that I can report back to you with any confidence that it's going to happen. It's a fluid situation. I am sure these negotiations are sensitive and they contain information that's of a confidential nature because of the, it's a real estate transaction essentially. But I wanted to let the commission know that it had those meetings and that both Senator Cal and Mr. Side say they are interested and still interested, despite I think there's some letters to the contrary from at least one of them. And as soon as I have anything further, I even met with Mr. Parker, and I think his motivation really is to simply sell the property and probably without delay. So when I have more information, I'll bring it back to you. But I wanted you to at least know that I met the parties now. But I can't say much more than that because I don't have anything concrete enough to rely on.
Is that all?
Yes.
Okay, then the meeting's adjourned. Did you have a few more minutes?